What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So with a lot of discussion right now around the future of Xbox and what that exactly looks like for the brand completely, there's a new report that was released yesterday that starts to fill in the gaps as to how Microsoft is going to approach their next console generation, and we'll go over all of those details here today. Also, we're going to be talking about Bluepoint with their canceled God of War multiplayer game, as some assets did leak out. Now this is leading people to maybe speculate on what their new project could be. And we'll also be talking about a what-if scenario. Kojima and the potential for him making a Matrix game. Well, apparently that was almost a reality back in the early 2000s, and what could have been, but we'll look at it, all of that and more. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton, and if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. We're here every weekday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time, working to keep you up to date on all the gaming news, so if you don't see a video pop up notifications, just understand we're probably here weekday mornings, 8 a.m. So check it out. But we're going to start today with Pokemon Legends ZA, as we did have some more sales information get out there, but I guess the Pokemon company has already provided us with information that 5.8 million copies sold in the first week. Still though, we can see this from Matt Piscatella, and this is from a social media account saying Pokemon Legends ZA had a massive US launch at retail. Launch week physical unit and dollar sales of Pokemon Legends ZA were the biggest for a new physical video game launch since The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom back in May of 2023. And that is the source for Circana Retail Tracking Service. And I mean, it's what we would expect after seeing those initial sales from the Pokemon company, and the fact that Pokemon is very, very big in the US, not shocking. And as I mentioned, I think the momentum for Pokemon Legends ZA will continue, as it is bundled with the Switch 2, but also the holiday season is right around the corner, and I mean, Pokemon just works really, really well as a gift for general audiences. So yes, I think Legends ZA will continue to do very, very well, and we'll find out actually in the next Nintendo report, their quarterly report. That'll probably be in the first week of February, and they'll give us like a full picture as to how Legends ZA did from October to December. Also, it looks like a new Crash Bandicoot series is coming to Netflix. This we can see over on, well, what's on Netflix, saying Netflix isn't done with bringing some of the most prolific video game adaptations to your screens. We've learned that Netflix has been quietly developing a Crash Bandicoot animated series, which comes from the same studio as Sonic Prime. Now, unfortunately, I'm not really sure of the quality of Sonic Prime, so people have to let me know down in the comments section if this is a good thing or a bad thing. Now, they say the story details and everything still under wraps, as you'd expect, but I don't know, it's interesting to think that there would be some kind of Crash Bandicoot series coming to Netflix, and this continues the idea of a lot of video game IPs continue to branch out, outside of gaming outright. And I mean, Crash Bandicoot's been around forever anyway, and we've seen some iterations of Crash. I know people were pointing to like Skylanders and stuff, but hey, we'll see, I guess, what they turn in with Crash Bandicoot on Netflix. Again, let me know how Sonic Prime turned out, because I saw that and I go, I have no actual context around if that's good or bad. Oh, and we do have an Xbox event scheduled for today. This we can see over on IGN, where they say IGN is thrilled to partner with ID Xbox for another exciting showcase, this time right before Halloween. Now, this will be happening later today, October 28th. The show kicks off 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, and they do point out gameplay for games from indie publishers including Serenity Forge, Thunder Lotus, Raw Fury, Skybound, and many more, with the show consisting of about 50 minutes of brand new content across various genres. So hard to say exactly what'll be here, but it does seem like, as you'd expect, a lot of indie titles, and most of the times that's where a lot of the creative stuff comes from in gaming at this point, so definitely worth checking out. And I'll see what we have with this showcase and try to get it down to different bullet points and what exactly was announced here, again, to keep you guys up to date. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Microsoft and their next generation plans, as this is slowly building up to being one of the worst kept secrets, and part of that has to do with Microsoft themselves almost like wanting to talk about it right now, with Sarah Bond pressed consistently when talking about, or at least doing the rounds marketing their ROG Xbox Ally X. She kept getting asked about, hey, what exactly is happening with the next Xbox console? And she's like right there, like borderline almost saying, hey, it's going to be kind of a PC, really. Well, now we have a new report out of Windows Central detailing all kinds of different things about this new device, and also just plans for Microsoft completely as to how they're going to be steering the ship heading into next generation with things like online multiplayer, Game Pass, and more. So according to Windows Central and Jez Corden, this will be positioned as a hybrid console slash PC, and that's, again, worst kept secret right now. It's what we're all expecting. So there will be full Windows, but a traditional console layout on top, and apparently if you don't want to mess around with Windows out of the box, at least this specific console that Microsoft will be producing with Xbox branding, you don't have to worry about that. It'll just be set up as a console. But if you'd like, you can jump over to Windows, and they even mention installing not only different PC storefronts, like, oh yeah, it's a Windows PC. You can install Photoshop if you want, work on different images. But clearly the big draw there is, you can install Steam, Epic, GOG, all these different storefronts to then get away from the Microsoft Xbox store. That's the head scratching thing, I think, for a lot of people as to how that makes business sense for Microsoft, considering it's always worked as you're funneled to a specific storefront that then gives a cut of all sales to the platform holder. Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, Steam, Valve. It's kind of worked that way really since the inception of the digital store. And even before then, physical copies, you'd still pay some sort of fee to the platform holder. Anyway, this apparently will support current Xbox library, so fully backwards compatible with everything that we see now, even going back to the original Xbox, as that does work through Xbox backwards compatibility. The multiplayer came up, and specifically the paywall. This is something that I've pointed out a lot. It doesn't make sense to have this if you are doing this hybrid approach, because you're trying to bring together PC and console, but right now only one has to pay to play online. Apparently that's something that could go away completely, and you know what? It would sort of have to go in this direction. Once again, kind of head scratching from a business perspective, good from a consumer perspective. Yeah, you don't have to pay to play online, but I do wonder how many people are using Game Pass as, okay, I need to buy this to play online, when many of the online experiences currently are free to play, the ones that at least suck up a lot of the time, and you don't need Xbox Live or PlayStation Plus or even Nintendo's online service to play those games. There's no paywall barrier for free-to-play games on consoles. Now, they are using the ROG Xbox Ally as a beta device of sorts, so they're looking to collect feedback and improve the OS. So what we're looking at right now is kind of an early days version of, I guess, what would release onto the console when it's ready to go for next generation. It was also mentioned that Microsoft is still developing a handheld. So the reason they moved over to the Xbox Ally quickly and scrapped plans of getting a handheld out as soon as possible, I guess, was that they want to get something out immediately. It would take longer to develop internally, and ROG or Asus has the ability to produce these things a bit faster and get them out there to market, since they've done a lot of the R&D and even introduction of the device. And here, Microsoft can work closely with them to get this new Windows layer on top with gaming and collect feedback again and just improve the OS features. Now, there are a lot of questions still around all of this. The pricing, right now we are speculating that it's more than $1,000. We're hearing $1,200 being a big number thrown around right now. Could get even more expensive depending on the internals of the system. How much will it actually feel like a console? Because as I'm using the Xbox Ally X, you could definitely tell it's a PC because you have to go into that Windows environment quite frequently for different updates on the Windows side. So it reminds you a lot that, yes, this is still just a PC with a console-like layer over top of it. And the Xbox Play Anywhere adoption, I'm trying to figure out how excited are third parties about that really? Because right now they are creating games that they might keep exclusively to PC on the Windows Store, but then also creating a version that they can sell again on Xbox. Microsoft crams them both together. Now you just have one version and I guess one pool of players to sell to, as in you won't get the double dipping maybe from somebody who wants it on Xbox and PC without Play Anywhere. Again, that's good for consumers, but you kind of think about it from the companies or business perspective, they're like, hold on, that's not exactly something we're excited to hear. The other part, clearly, the marketing and the messaging. How hard is it going to be to explain what this is to the general consumer? Not to like you or me. I understand, this would be really cool, I think, to have a PC that is much more suited to the living room. Because I know people say, you can plug in a PC now out in the living room and use it just fine. I will tell you, the controller works in a living room setting significantly better than keyboard and mouse. Keyboard and mouse is set up primarily for a desk setup, and it works well there. But when you're sitting back on the couch, just outright, a controller is just better. So Windows is just not really designed for that environment, and it was never really meant to be, I guess. So here, if they can work this into being able to use a controller for the most part, maybe even your voice with, I'm sure there's built-in AI, then maybe they have something there. It just comes down to how can they sell that to the general consumer, because they might not all want to go, oh yes, PC finally. There are a lot of people who are just console because it's easy. So Microsoft, I think, primarily has to show convenience and ease of use as top of messaging for general consumers out there. Because again, you and I, if we hear, oh cool, PC in the living room, no pay to play online, it's all still backwards compatible, like it starts adding up in your head of, okay, maybe this is, you could say, is worth $1,000 because I was gonna get a PC anyway, but the general consumer's like, I don't get it. It's a better Xbox, I guess. I'll just stick with the one I already have, or I'll buy a PlayStation that's cheaper, or a Switch too. That's what I mean. You really have to get the messaging just right, or it's gonna have a lot of growing pains. Next up, let's talk about Bluepoint and their canceled God of War game. Now, this was supposed to be some sort of multiplayer game in the God of War universe, and they were working directly with Sony Santa Monica to make it happen. It seems strange because we know Bluepoint, their strength is clearly remaking games. So the idea of them making a new game, but an already established IP or franchise, I guess is almost that half step of, you don't have to come up with everything from the ground up to make a new IP. We already have established lore and characters, but you can come in and develop something that's brand new and not being remade off of a previously designed game. I get that, I guess. But the idea of them having to develop an online multiplayer live service-ish kind of game was strange to throw Bluepoint into. But we have some assets that got out there. MP First had the story you can see here with a ton of different images. They say this cancellation caught many by surprise, with details sparse beyond the fact that it was supposed to be a multiplayer game set in the God of War universe. Thankfully, we recently gained access to development screenshots that offer a detailed look at the game's planned setting. People are really looking into some of these screenshots and reading into some of the setting and the different details. It does appear like it was going to be the Greek setting, so people are thinking, oh, were they going back to like the older days of God of War, really? And I mean, for multiplayer, you would assume so. Like, I'm picturing it to be more zoomed out, I guess, compared to the current God of War with, we'll say, Ragnarok, where it's right over the shoulder kind of viewpoint. So I'm picturing almost maybe a more arcadey, like, I guess God of War Ascension. Maybe that's the best way to kind of convey what I'm picturing here. But still, you see a lot of these assets and the stuff they were working on, you go, that'd be a shame to just scrap all of that and throw it away and start something new. So when that job listing popped up recently, that they were looking into, I guess, positions for an action or a melee style game, it does make you then think, Bluepoint, they're good at remaking stuff. Would they now remake God of War? I mean, we did just have the 20th anniversary, so you kind of missed that window, but still, it is more than 20 years old now, so it is falling, I think, in line with making more sense than remaking the Last of Us or something like that. And I feel like generally the audience would be really excited to see that done again. This time though, I mean, at this point they're restarting it, you figure PS6, maybe PS5, PS6 cross-gen style game. That would be really cool, and Bluepoint is well equipped to do that, especially if they've already been working on God of War this whole time with this multiplayer game and maybe the art style and assets. It kind of feels like it adds up for something they can turn around, not quick, but definitely faster than restarting from like zero with a whole new game. So that's what I would like to see. Otherwise, though, I'll leave a link down to the MP First article and report so you can look through all these different screenshots because they got a number of them. And let me know what you think about the idea of God of War on the PS2, that one, the first one, getting remade for the newer generation systems, let's say PS5 and then into PS6. That was the poll question I asked, so I'm curious to see what people's thoughts are on that later on. Next up, let's talk about a big announcement that is slated for today, and that's for Battlefield. And Battlefield 6, strong out of the gate. We heard about the sales from EA, which were really, really impressive. The concurrent player count has been really high for EA. They seem very, very happy along with fans for the series, at least so far. Now, though, is where things get interesting because, as you assume, there has to be a Battle Royale mode with some of these games, right? And it has to be free to play. Looks like it's coming out today, and this we can see over on VGC. where they say Battlefield RedSec, which stands for Redacted Sector, will be released tomorrow, October 28th. And it's going to be free to play according to the studio. This in the latest message on the Battlefield account saying, eyes up, plates on. RedSec arrives tomorrow, 8 a.m. Pacific. Yes, that's right. So we're gonna see how this one goes. And look, here's the thing with Battlefield. They did say 100 million players. That was something that was getting thrown around. They're expecting 100 million players in its lifetime. And that sounds like a lofty goal to where it's like, all right, good luck, guys. But we did see Call of Duty Warzone get there eventually, and that's just because it's a free-to-play battle royale game that if you just download it, sign in, they count you. And that might be the way that they make this work here, because Battlefield 6, it wasn't a 2042 situation where they stumbled out of the gate and people were crushing the game and didn't have a scoreboard and the class system came into question. And no, Battlefield 6 comes out and for the most part, I'd say the majority of people are getting a kick out of it. So now you bring in the battle royale mode that's free to play without the $70 barrier of entry. And yeah, you could have a domino effect of just more and more people checking it out. Now, I am curious their take on it. That's a big thing they're stressing. It's going to be the Battlefield take on Battle Royale. The thing with Battlefield is they already have the large maps. Like, they've got that all figured out. So it seems like it's a perfect match. But that's the thing, we'll see. And I, of course, be keeping an eye on this one, and we can do some coverage on it depending on what happens here later on today. So I guess keep an eye out for Battle Royale being added into Battlefield. And in our last bit of news, let's take a trip back to 1999 with The Matrix. And the Matrix was going crazy. Late 90s, early 2000s, it was everywhere. And apparently, Hideo Kojima had an opportunity to make a Matrix game. And this is something I think that's been thrown around a bit through different rumors. This, though, comes from a bit more of an official source that would have knowledge of this whole thing. And this is from Time Extension, who was talking with Christopher Bergstresser, so former vice president of licensing at Konami Digital Entertainment, saying, quote, the Wachowskis were big fans of Kojima. So Kazuma Kitai and Kojima Akisaito, who still works with Kojima, and I were at Konami headquarters, and we got a call from Wachowskis who wanted to come in and meet with Kojima, so they did. The two of them came in with their concept artists and effectively said to Kojima, we really want you to do the Matrix game. Can you do that? Aki translated this into Japanese for Mr. Kato, and he's looked at them and told them plainly, no. Wow. We did still get to enjoy the Matrix Japanese premiere and after party, though. That's crazy. Imagine having that presented to you. Hey, we want you to make the Matrix game. I mean, look, the Matrix went on to be insanely popular. It's crazy, right? So Kojima, apparently, they were saying after all of this went down, still internally at the studio was really still wanted to do it. And it makes sense. I mean, Kojima has just expressed interest in the Matrix. If you've played Twin Snakes, he was definitely thinking about the Matrix the whole time when he was consulting back and forth on that game with some of those cutscenes that were done. I know it was like Silicon Knights and stuff, but Kojima was working with it as well. And it's very clear that it was kind of like working into the cutscenes and stuff. Can you imagine what Kojima would have done with the Matrix? I just say that because he likes the fourth wall breaking stuff. And with the Matrix, you can do all kinds of craziness. Doesn't have to make sense. It's the Matrix. Now, the other part of this is 1999. I mean, he's completely, I'm sure, invested in working on Metal Gear Solid 2. So to be fair, from Konami's point of view, it probably wouldn't have lined up with the time factor and him being able to work on both projects at once. And to a degree, Konami was correct because Metal Gear Solid 2 is incredible. I mean, the fact that game came out in 2001 and is still quite relevant to this day, yeah, that says something. But what could have been? Kojima making a Matrix game. Let me know if that's something you would have liked to see, or maybe we're fine with Enter the Matrix and Path of Neo. Path of Neo is still kind of a cool game, but Enter the Matrix, a lot of hype going into that, and then a lot of disappointment when you realize you're just not playing as Neo. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, would you be interested in a God of War PS2 remake? 64% say yes, 36% say no. Yeah, I agree. I think this would be really cool to see. I mean, the game is now more than 2 decades old, but even then, the combat, the style of it, even the viewpoint, it's all very different than what God of War is now. And you can even think of it as, we're going to introduce us again to a new audience who maybe remembers God of War like the current one, like God of War 2018, they might be going, oh yeah, that's the God of War I remember. That's the God of War, not the older ones. You got to bring that back up and reintroduce the new generation, while also, I think, fitting along nicely to God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok, which is different playstyles. And also, can you imagine how good that game could look with what Bluepoint's been able to do with some of their previous remakes? That's what I hope they end up doing. Because the God of War multiplayer, it's just, I know Bluepoint wants to work on something more original, but sometimes you just go back to the well and do what you're good at, that being a remake, and I think they're set up perfectly here for a God of War remake, but we'll see if that's what they end up going with. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Street Magic, says, Halo on PlayStation reminds me of Sonic Adventure 2 releasing on GameCube. Crazy times. Yeah, that was a big deal too at that time, because it came out on the GameCube 4 months after the GameCube release. All of a sudden, boom, there's Sonic on a Nintendo system. It's like, where am I? That was a shocking thing to see. And then even more shocking, less than a year later, it was like at the end of 2002, the Sonic Mega Collection came out, and a ton of Sonic, old school Sonic, that I was like, no, this is Genesis all day. You know, it's not going to be on the Super Nintendo. It can't even run on the Super Nintendo. It's blast processing. All of a sudden, there it is on a GameCube. Nintendo logo pops up, and then here comes Sonic. Wild times. And yeah, that is a good comparison. Halo on PlayStation kind of is like Sonic showing up then on the GameCube. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card. Or maybe you want to see my reaction to the initial trailer drop for Halo Campaign Evolved. I did that as well over the weekend. I'll leave that in the video right below it. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.